Welcome everyone to It Tastes Different Gaming Appetizers. And tonight, everybody's getting an earful of Microsoft. Everybody's tired of talking about Microsoft, right? Well, we got more for you because they never cease to amaze, which surprises me that we're still talking about that today because we have mentioned so many things that they've done and how that anything they do just just doesn't faze me anymore. But this article we're going to read kind of shines a light on why that's happening. So tonight we're going to talk about Microsoft has pushed Xbox to deliver a 30% profit margin. So let me get this article shown here. All right. So in this article, which we're showing here, Microsoft has reportedly pushed Xbox Studios to deliver a 30% profit margin, allegedly leading to all those layoffs, canceled projects, price rises, and end of exclusives, right? How much did we hear with them talking that this, it's due to the current market or the current, all this kind of garbage? Well, now we know the truth because of their own internal greed. So a new report has shed light on the goings on Microsoft, which has allegedly pushed Xbox Studios to deliver a 30% profit margin, much higher than the industry average. Bloomberg's Jason Schreier reported that Microsoft's 30% profit margin goal had led to the gaming division's huge layoffs, canceled projects, controversial price rises, and multi-platform push. The cuts to Xbox have been deep. Thousands of staff have lost their jobs over several rounds of layoffs. Games such as Rare's Everwild and the Initiative's Perfect Dark reboot were canceled after years of development. ZeniMax Online Studios games project Blackbird was canned, leading to mass layoffs. The Initiative was also shut down last year. Microsoft closed Redfall developer Arcane Austin and Hi-Fi Rush developer Tango Gameworks. So basically, it's every video game franchise Xbox owns after acquiring Activision Blizzard. Meanwhile, Microsoft has increased the price of its Xbox Series X and S consoles twice, mind you. This article only mentioned once, but twice within a very short time frame. And the price of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate to $29.99 a month, the latter of which was hugely controversial move. Microsoft tried to make the jump to $80 video games, but ended up reverting to the $70 after fans pushed back on the idea of paying $10 more for Obsidian than the Outer Worlds 2. Most expect Microsoft to go to the $80 mark at some point this year, which I do believe so too. Bloomberg said the average profit margin in the video game industry is 17 to 22%. That surprised me. I thought it would be more closer to 15 to 20, but 17 and 22 is interesting. Over the past 6 years, Xbox has hit 10 to 20%. To put that 30% target into more context, Sony's PlayStation division achieved a 16% profit margin in Q1 of FY 2025. Bloomberg said Microsoft Chief Financial Officer Amy Hood enforced the new target in fall of 2023 amid Microsoft's $69 billion acquisition of Call of Duty maker Activision Blizzard. The upshot now is, according to Bloomberg, that games that are cheap to make or considered more likely to make lots of money may take priority over riskier projects. Xbox floundering hardware division, meanwhile, may face a significant rethinking. IGN was reported on recent comments from Xbox President Sarah Bond, who said the next-gen Xbox will be a very premium, very high-end curated experience. Bond also called the idea of exclusive games antiquated. Tell that to Nintendo and PlayStation, who are dominating the market and pretty much beating the snot out of Microsoft at every turn. But nowadays, Xbox Game Studios is one of the most prolific and successful publishers on PlayStation. Microsoft issued to Bloomberg a statement that suggests its Xbox profit margin target isn't the same across every project. We look at business as a whole, balancing creativity, innovation, and sustainability across a diverse portfolio of offerings. As with any creative business, sometimes that means making hard decisions and stopping work on things that are no longer working for a variety of reasons and shifting resources towards projects that are more aligned with direction and priorities, right? This kind of leads into another thing that has come up just in the same few days, where Microsoft mentioned, they always mention that the market is the reason for things going on. But this other article here talks about how Xbox, basically raised the price of dev kits $500 from $1,500 to $2,000. So after raising the price of Xbox consoles and subscriptions, Microsoft is now turning attention to Xbox developers. So not only are they making it harder for gamers to get into this stuff. They're making it harder for developers to want to work with them, right? $2,000 for a dev kit, a $500, that's a 25% price increase, right? That's probably a little bit more than that, but my math may be off. But I mean, that seems excessively high for something that they want developers to do. They want developers to build on their ecosystem, but yet they're going to jump that price from $1,500 to $2,000. That's a 33% price jump. Excuse me, not 25. So the adjustment reflects macroeconomics. That's the word I was looking for. They mentioned macroeconomics, but this is just a bullshit statement for we need to reach our profit margin of 30%. So we're going to stab and we're going to basically beat that turnip on the rock to get all the juice out of it. So we're going to bleed that rock dry of everything it's got. So it says Microsoft in an announcement to Xbox developers seen on The Verge, we remain committed to providing high quality tools. That's what Microsoft is. They're not really a high quality tool, but they are a tool. And support for the development efforts. I asked Microsoft to comment on the price rise, but the company didn't respond in time for the publication. This comes from The Verge, by the way, which is the one that broke this story, I do believe. The price increase to the Xbox dev kit come just a month after Microsoft hiked the Xbox Series X console for the second time this year. The second price increase to Series X means the console is now $150 more than it was just 6 months ago. Microsoft also blamed changes in the macroeconomic environment for this latest Xbox console price hike, which means we got a crappy profit margin increase, so we're going to push that down to you. I think any company that we'll kind of get into it, but I think any company that's going to publicly tell you that they've increased their profit margin to 30% should sit and spin. Just get the fuck out. You got no business in this real world because now you're just gouging people to increase your valuation artificially, because that's all you're doing is creating artificial valuation. So more on that. This article or this session will basically be on these two articles. So let me go ahead and stop sharing, and then we can kind of get in together and chat about what we think and, what our interpretations are from the articles. We read it to you. You kind of take your own interpretation. It's all there in black and white, but the macroeconomic comments that I've heard all throughout this year is all just lip service, really, is the way I am reading this article and everything I've got. It's just lip service at this point, because we now know the reason Microsoft has been doing what I consider some of the stupidest, dumbest moves in the industry for gaming, by destroying studios that were making them money or that have made money in the past, but maybe got suckered into a crappy deal, like the Arcane Studios one, right? They got suckered into that whole crappy game that we just, don't need to talk anymore about. But then they're killing off, Hi-Fi Rush thing made absolutely no sense to me, but now it kind of does now, right? We know that, hey, they are probably one of the lower performing studios, and they're like, oh, we just got to cut this thing. These other studios will make us more money. So even though they made a highly successful game, we're going to cut them out because they don't make as much money as like this XYZ studio. And we need to increase our profit margin by 30%. Not good on you, Microsoft. Now that this has come to light, a lot of this stuff, in my opinion, is just, you could say macroeconomics all you want, but now we know it's corporate greed is what it really is. And now we all kind of thought that, but now it's pretty much written in black and white in front of our face that it's corporate greed on Microsoft's behalf. I mean, obviously Microsoft is a parent company and they own Xbox, and they can tell Xbox what they want them to do. And Xbox has to execute it in whatever way that the Xbox leadership team defines, right? So, Microsoft says 30% profit increase from Xbox and from all of our subsidiaries, and Xbox make it happen. And Xbox's leadership just disseminates that down the ranks, and they're like, okay, we can do it by killing these jobs, cutting these studios, killing these games in development, increasing all these prices, because these prices are like exorbitantly stupid, right? $150 for a console that is now 5 years old is just stupid. And now we know why. And because Microsoft is doing it, Sony is like, hey, well, we can do this too, right? Everybody thinks that they could do it, but this just proves it's corporate greed. Nick, you look super excited to talk about this. You are the only one out of the group of us that has decided to go Xboxless, but you have a PC, and you have a PlayStation, which everything's an Xbox, including a PlayStation now.
Yep.
What do you think about this?
Just took one dump in my Xbox.
Did you?
Yep.
Yeah. So you showed that tool. You just basically use that tool as the job intended, right?
To wipe.
To receive my excrement. That was this tool was designed for. So, Nick, what do you think, man? What are your opinions on this new light of information about 30% profit increase? Or margin, I should say, not increase, but 30% margin.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. And it's not only just Microsoft, right? It's a lot of corporations, especially here in the United States, that's one of the problems that we have with the whole economy and capitalism and things of that nature is like I've talked about it before, but there's always a point where companies are going to hit that ceiling, right? Because every year the profits have to be larger than the year before, right? And it's like you can only go so far. There's only a point where you can get so far where you're not going to be able to hit that anymore, right? You're going to hit that ceiling at some point. And I think, especially now with how the economy is and just how things are going, I think companies are really going to see that issue of hitting that ceiling. But the problem that they have too, on the flip side, is not really for the corporations, but for the workers, is that, like Pat was saying, it trickles down to them, projects they're doing, or just the employees, right? I mean, a company, not weird, but the crazy thing about a company is it will eat itself before it chops its own head off, right? I mean, before it gets to that point, it will just devour its entirety until the top. The top is the last thing that'll go. So, it'll cut as many appendages and various things off of itself to make a number that doesn't really need to be, realistically doesn't need to be met, right? I mean, they have enough money, they have enough capital. Most of these companies are in the black every single year, or at least doing well profit wise. So they don't need to make these imaginary, not really imaginary, but these numbers, right, every single year. But it's shareholders and public trading and various things like that say every single year you must do this, you must go higher. And it all comes down to greed, really. I mean, it comes down to just greed. Every corporation and, high-end profile CEOs and various things like that are just greedy as hell, right? And that's all they're looking for, is they don't give a shit who they hurt or what they hurt. They will cut, scrape, like I said, it'll eat itself before it'll eat everything else before it eats itself, right? In a sense, like if it's a body, think of it as it'll chew on its leg before it ever goes to the main thing, which is its brain up here, right? I mean, that's the top of the pyramid, or the body dynamic.
It's self-mutilating, right? It's eating itself from the tail up, which the tail is all your workers, and it gets close to the head, it just dies because it just
exactly
itself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Rot from within.
Yeah, and that's the way that Microsoft is just kind of going full bore with it right now. But Sony, when it comes to gaming, like Sony and Nintendo are going to be performing the same thing. Nintendo with the Switch 2 and stuff, which I think the Switch 2 is a nice console and all, but I mean, Nintendo's been making a lot of, we've talked about it, Nintendo's been making a lot of like really non-consumer friendly moves. Sony's always made those things. And even if it's not talked about as much, like they are probably doing very similar things. I think maybe Sony and Nintendo might tackle those things a little bit differently. But I guess Nintendo has a Nintendo of America, but I mean they're situated out of Japan, right? That's where the main headquarters is. So that whole process may be a little bit different for them compared to Microsoft, which is an American company. And then the same thing with Sony, right? Sony Japan, I think, is the main honcho with that as well. So again, it might be a different culture and perspective than what we have for an American company such as Microsoft. But I mean, like, yeah, they're Microsoft itself is gutting Xboxes. I mean, it's eating away at Xbox as a brand, right? Where Xbox is not the brand it used to be anymore, and they are turning into a publisher, and the weird thing about it for me is like they're turning into a publisher, which is fine, I guess, if you want to be a publisher and you don't want to be a developer anymore, you don't want to develop consoles or various things like that. But it's like what's weird is they kind of give that look of they want to be just a publisher, but then they still develop things or co-develop things. And it's like they want to develop too, yet when they develop stuff, it's like they shit all over it. You know what I'm saying? Like they make something and then they just like shit on it and go, here you go.
Yeah, they taint it.
Yeah, and it's like, why are you even making this if you're just going to shit all over it, or even start something that you're just going to end up cutting or just shitting all over once it comes out? Like, I just don't understand. It almost seems like I don't know, Microsoft leadership or maybe Xbox leadership are going in two totally different directions, right? And they eventually butt heads at some point, and that's when shit hits the fan. They seem to butt heads all the time. It's almost like the company's trying to go in two different directions, but those two directions are completely opposite of one another. And instead of coming together, they're tearing it apart, right? It's just tearing apart at the seams. I honestly don't know what their thought process is, besides making more profit. Other than that, I really don't know what Microsoft itself is doing, because even Xbox brand is going, shittingly for them. I don't know how their other stuff is doing, right? I mean, Microsoft makes a lot of things, right? I don't know how their OS is doing. I know they've had a lot of ups and downs with Windows 11. I don't know how their Office 360 product is working for them. They still make Surfaces, right? Yeah. So I don't know how their Surfaces are going. If that, part of it's still beneficial for them. I really don't know. I mean, because they've tried a lot of different things, like the AR lenses, like the HoloLens, right? And various other avenues, the Zune, I guess. If you
Not everybody can be as successful as Zune. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. I had a Zune.
I still got mine.
The Windows phones.
The best MP3 player ever to exist. The Zune.
The Zune.
Yep. The best
Windows
one
phone
to exist and never get used.
Microsoft has made a lot of things, but their things never seem to stick, right? Very rarely do they make something that is successful. I mean, even their Surfaces, I don't know how successful their Surfaces are, but they don't seem to be that successful. They're still making them, but I don't know. We had to use a Surface once for work, and it was fine, but it's not something I'd go out and purchase. I think there's better. If you want something like that, I think there's better options out there, like Lenovo's Yogas or
Kindle.
A Kindle, yeah. The black and white one.
The black and white one.
But yeah, I don't know. An Etch-a-Sketch. Yeah, that would be more fun, wouldn't it? What do you think, Shane?
I think Microsoft has a plan. I don't think it's butting heads. I think they have a plan to just piss off everybody. And that's the way it just feels. It feels
like a horrible plan.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they're $1 trillion company, so they need that 30% margin. I mean, they were going down the hill.
No, Shane, they're a mom and pop. All right.
Yes. I saw Bill Gates the other day.
Don't compare them to those big corporations out there. They're a little mom and pop shop.
Yep.
And they're trying to make ends meet.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we got to help those people out. They need help. They need tax breaks to, keep pushing on, because they're going to achieve one day. Bunch of horse shit. Microsoft as a company, they're worth trillions and trillions of dollars. They basically own the PC market because they're forced into pretty much every PC. The Xbox, for as amazing as I love my Xbox, I do. I love my Xbox controller. And now I don't even want to touch it because it feels dirty. for what Microsoft has been doing. And Microsoft was, they Don Matricked. We call it the Matrick. So they Don Matricked themselves. And then Phil come in and started making, the gamers feel good. And then I'm not going to blame Phil entirely. I'll blame Sarah Bond and I blame her bosses for the rest of it. And then it shit showed. I mean, it cratered everybody's hope for Microsoft and Xbox. The Game Pass, when it first came out, interesting idea. We all kind of got in and out until they really hit that stride. Boom, we're all in. We're all Game Pass Pro, subscribers. You get the PC, you get the Xbox, yay! And then they're like, a little bit of an increase. It's like, you know what? I get it. Times change. $1 here is fine. And then they quit going to the dollar. They're going double digits on those increases. That's horseshit. And to blame macroeconomics. All right. Tariffs are killing this country. Prices are going through the roof. Insurance is going through the roof. Everything is going up and up and up. But they're using that as an excuse to cover that margin of increase and pad another 20% onto it. That's what they're doing. Yes, you have to increase prices sometimes. You do. I get it. I understand it. I'm 50. I've watched minimum wage go from $3 to $7, I think it is federal. But it's a horseshit excuse to say what they're saying. But now it's clear it's just about profit. That's it. Nobody, and this is going to sound, un-American, but, eat a dick. Nobody should be a billionaire. If you can't live on $999 million, that's your fault. Nobody should be a billionaire. We got to quit putting profit over people. We got to quit making it seem like if you make all this money, you're a success. No. Being a success is being able to make that kind of money, but not ripping people off to get it. That to me is a success. And Microsoft is just ripping people off and they're going out to the developers. That makes no sense. They're going to increase that price, $500. Is that for the current system or is that for a possible upcoming system?
I think that's for the current system, but I was wondering
yeah, it got put into effect in 2023, by the way. That's when that increase was. We just now found out about it.
Well,
But,
see,
2023 was when they put in this 30% profit margin increase. So it's been in effect for a couple of fiscal years now.
So that's horseshit. One that we just found out. It's a good way to keep. But a lot of gamers don't know what these things cost. So I'll give them that little bit of leeway. But it's still horseshit. I mean, prices are supposed to decrease as technology gets older. It's been that way forever and a day. Apologize, I hit the mic. And now it's like, oh man, we hit another year, another bump. It's killing me, and it makes me angry because I'm a console gamer. These guys, Nick's all over the place. Pat's he's a PC. Nick's pretty much PC now, I guess. I'm a console guy, and I feel gross picking up my Xbox controller. I never touch my PlayStation unless I have an exclusive. I don't touch my Switches unless I have an exclusive. But I play everything on my Xbox, and now I feel like gross touching it because I know they're killing jobs. They're increasing all their prices. I canceled my my Game Pass, and I didn't want to, but I canceled the kids and I canceled mine. But I have to re-get it once in a while because there is a game or two that I want to play here and there. So, I'm going to be dirty, but at least I'll play a game I like for $30 instead of $60. So it really makes no sense to me why Microsoft is trying to kill the Xbox brand. Because, they say they're going to do this and that, but why would they do that if they keep just making everybody hate them? I mean, to me, that just doesn't make sense. Hey, we're going to just increase the prices on everything, and you're not going to be able to afford it. But when we bring out something new, you're going to buy that, right? No. So, but
yeah.
I mean,
so what I have a problem with is that this is artificial, right? It's artificial profit. I mean, it's not artificial as in it doesn't exist. It is that you didn't grow naturally. That's not how you reached your profit. And percentage of and net. When I talk about this, I'm talking about net profit percentage, which is basically how much profit you made after all expenditures, right?
Mhm.
After you paid your staff. It's basically, this is the purest amount of money that we made. Microsoft today, not Xbox, Microsoft is in 36.1% profit margins, which means that for every dollar of a sale, 36 cents is profit for them. For every dollar that they make in a sale is profit, pure profit. That's outside of FTEs, all that stuff. And what pisses me off is that you as a company should not grow by net profit margin. You should grow by creating more products, selling more products, increasing your base, increasing your product line, not just relying on a product line that says, hey, we're making 10% net profit margin. Well, we need you to make 15 next year. And then we need to make you 20. Let's put it this way. I just took a quick look through Microsoft's earning calls and all this stuff. So 2021, their net margin was 31%. So in 5 years, they've increased their profit, their net margin by over 5%. During times when everybody's talking about economic crisis and it's all this and that, and we're hurting and we got to lay off all these people, they didn't grow. Like, they financially grew, right? Because that's natural. You're going to naturally grow. You make more money as a company, in my opinion, by growth. And growth means more sales, more product lines that you're selling, or whatever lines of service that you're doing, not by artificially saying, well, we're going to make growth happen because we are going to increase our net profit margin by whatever means, like raising prices of the product. To me, that's what pisses me off. So instead of them being happy making 10% profit off of whatever they're selling, they're like, we need to make 30%. We need a 20%. We need to get to as high, it's one thing to run lean, but not at the expense of your people and the expense of your consumers. Because really what this says to me by Microsoft, if they're making 36.1% net profit margin, they're fucking over their consumers. So everybody who buys their products, they're fucking over their people that work within there, because instead of giving people more money within the company or growing the company's staff to lighten the load of the other people on there, they're just lumping the burden onto them by shrinking their staff, and then they're lumping the burden of their increased net profit margin by raising the price of the consumer, not by offering anything of more value, but by saying this same product is now worth 1% more net profit, 2%, 3%. They're increasing their net profit margin 1% year over year for the last 5 years. That's just them. Nintendo and Sony are just kind of as bad, I think I looked up Nintendo's as well over the years, and I think they're very similar. They're very high they're not quite as high as Microsoft is as a company, but Microsoft's more than just gaming, right? Nintendo is just gaming. Nintendo's 2025 annual margins was 23.9% for net profit margins. They're making 23.9 cents on every dollar. So almost 24 cents of every dollar or something they sell is pure profit. And why can't a company not be happy with 10% and just increasing their product line, making more sales, and things like that? Instead, they've got to just offset it. And that's what pisses me off. I don't have a problem with people making billions or companies making billions. I have a problem with companies increasing net profit margin, and that's their way of making more money instead of actually being an innovative company, making better products, more products, and things like that. I didn't get enough time to look into what Xbox actual net profit margins were, but I think they said they were like 16% or something like that, which is about average in the gaming industry. And I don't know where they're pulling that from, because looking at Nintendo's net profit and then looking at Sony's net profit, which Sony's is kind of hard to find too, right? Because it's PlayStation, it's kind of hard to find because it's lumped in with Sony's. So, I mean, if you look at Sony's net profit margin for this one, because they're publicly traded companies, as long as they're publicly traded companies, we have access to all of that. Sony's was 28. That's their gross. 25 point. Now, see, all they're reporting is gross, which gross is not a good one but they're reporting gross is 28.38. So that's a very small net is smaller because they take out more things such as like internal development costs and all that kind of crap. Well, this here says, according to Sony Group Corporation, they reported a net profit margin of 8.81%. So they sound like the more consumer-friendly company when you look at it like that, right? They're making less profit margin on their product line as a whole. So they're only making 9 cents a dollar for every dollar they sell. They're only making 9 cent profit. To me, that seems more reasonable. 9-10 cents profit per thing you sell. So to me,
is that Sony? Was that Sony?
That's Sony as a
PlayStation.
General.
Okay.
That's Sony as general. I don't, because Sony or PlayStation is, so according to this is just an estimation though. They're at approximately 9.5%. So with, because they had 136 billion in sales and 13 billion in operating income. So they're reporting, it says 2025 PlayStation reported 16% operating profit margin. It doesn't tell me if that's net or gross. I'm going to assume that's gross and the 9.5 is net. So to me, that seems a little bit more reasonable.
But what's their year over year?
That one,
because here it looks like not it's by 16, 19% year over year increase.
I mean, it's not an increase of 16% every year because they'd be at like 100 and some odd percent, right?
I'm just going off of Google AI, so
like that's income. Are you looking at income or net profit?
Net income
you can't
attributable to
you can't look at net income because net income is just the company growth as a whole. Like if last year I made $1 and then next year I make $5, that's a 500% increase, right? And then I make $10. You know, that should be a natural growth as I sell more products. My year over year profit grows, or my year over year income grows, because income is just how much did I make. And then you got gross profit, which is how much I made after these certain things are deducted. And then net is actually after the whole pie has been deducted. A lot of companies like to try to throw that gross profit in there and just say profit, but they don't take out all the expenditures just to make themselves seem to be valuated more. But you look at net profit to see what the pure profit is of that company. Basically, what I recouped after $1 sale. That's how I look at that.
Well,
that's what makes it easier.
Those are just numbers that I'll never see or truly understand. So,
right. And it's not that hard to understand. It's like, okay, if I sell something for $1,
I will physically never see to understand.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, because I mean, if they made $1 million, what is 30% of $1 million? That's how much was pure profit for them, you know? And I just, to me, is just complete greed. Like 10% makes sense to me, right? You can use that money to grow the company, to invest or buy other companies if you think that that's a good product offering for your team, or you need to spin up another product line within your company that's not going to come to fruition for 5 years while they develop that, right? So that company, that business unit of that company is a financial drain. So you need to pad that with some other groups. But I just think that what do you need more than 10% net profit for? Anything above that seems like you're just fucking over the consumer and the employee base, because you should be sharing that wealth internally is what they should be doing.
That's what the world has come to. It's about increasing the very, very few as high as possible.
In my opinion, this is what happens when you have no real competition in that sphere.
And it's going to get worse once Microsoft completely craps out. Sony's not going to have any competition.
I mean, in the gaming industry, yes, but what may also happen is if Microsoft craps out, you'll have another pop up, right?
No, I don't think you will.
I mean, I do, because if you have one big boy in the market who is basically running the gambit, just like we had with Sony when Sega went under, Microsoft popped up.
Yeah, but at that time, and you know, my personal feeling about it, Nintendo was still a competitor in the gaming market at that time.
Yeah, I guess they were.
Obviously, they went they went their own direction a generation or two later. But Microsoft was there, especially when the 360 era came out. That was the real driver for innovation in gaming, in my opinion, because it made Sony realize my $600 console ain't selling. I've got to do something. And I think it created innovation, and competition breeds innovation.
I don't think it. I don't think it created innovation. It created competition.
I personally think it's innovated because of it. I mean, online gaming for consoles has changed dramatically since then. But
that was because the internet got better. We had ADSL and all that stuff.
True.
I mean,
that's true. But I don't see the gaming industry that way anymore. I really don't. I think PC is a lot more. I mean, I own a PC now, and I own a good PC. My kids own PCs. I think the PC market is gonna basically help prevent another console from coming out. Now, that doesn't mean I'm right. I mean, we're never going to see a Dreamcast 2. Apple may try to make a comeback, jump in with their own console, and more power to them. I mean, to me, I don't like Apple products, but if it's going to be a competition for Sony and maybe force some people to rethink some things, great. But
yeah, because what I look at this as a couple of things are going to happen. If Microsoft completely pulls out of the hardware market, that leaves really only one player, and that's PlayStation. As much as anybody wants to say, Nintendo is not in the same
they're not.
Sphere. They have their own growth and they have their own fan base, but they are not in competition with Sony, because Sony has games that come out on PlayStation that will never come out on a Switch. Even if they come out on PC and Xbox, they'll never be on the Switch. And then vice versa. The Switch has games that will never, most of the games that are on Switch will never come out, especially anything that Nintendo designs, will never come out anywhere but that. So they have their own markets. And if Xbox or Microsoft, because it's not really Xbox, it's Microsoft, their leadership is too blind, deaf, and dumb to realize that exclusivity works, because they can't see their own competition in front of their face of Xbox or PlayStation and Nintendo. To me, that's just stupid. It's not that they're facading that behind we need the 30% margin increase. But I see that one of two things happening. Microsoft stops selling hardware. PlayStation is the sole provider in that realm. They will raise their profit margin, their net profit margin, so high gamers can't afford to buy it, and their own employees can't afford to do what they want to do internally, because they're going to be so bogged down by shrinking the company and overloading all their employees that their employees are going to unionize, and then they are really fucked. Well, no, they'll unionize, and Sony will get fucked. And then, because I do, as much as I don't, collective bargaining has a place in society to prevent corporations from this, because corporations are raking in billions of dollars of profit, and their employees are not. Their employees are stagnant, right? That's what's happening here. But it's happening at the effect of the consumer and the employee, not just one or the other. It would be different if PlayStation was just growing exponentially and shrinking their internal developer and employee base of all levels of service, and just not spreading the wealth around and just stagnating their employees, but also keeping costs low for their consumer. They're not doing that. They're increasing it in both ends. They're increasing the internal net profit margin while also increasing the cost of the item they're delivering to the consumer. So you will lose your consumer base, because the consumers can no longer afford to spend $1,000 on a PlayStation 6. And you can't drive enough new content out to warrant that, because you are running so lean internally that everybody's burnt out. And what's coming out is complete, utter garbage and horse shit, because your team is not in a cohesive unit, because they're just so burnt out. And so that's how unions form, because you're overworking them, underpaying them, underrepresenting them. So then a union will form, which then will raise their wages, raise their FTE account. And then Sony either has one option to do: reduce their net profit margin, which they don't want to do, or increase the cost of their goods. And already people can't afford their goods when they're $1,000. So now it's a $1,200 console, or $13 or $14. At that point, just buy a damn PC and be done with Sony. That's why I see this going, because in a free market, while it may be painful for a while, it will self-correct. And self-correct will be that point. Self-correct will be that point where you can't afford it, where I consider the three of us above average gamers. And what I mean by that is the amount of time that we play games is probably above average for gamers.
But it's only one game.
Especially in our age group.
Yeah.
And well, it used to not be, right? I guess I should say, I don't know if we are anymore, but we used to play a lot of games. And we don't anymore, just because it has got, and this is why I'm saying I think we're above average. And that me and Nick talked about something that I don't know if you were, I don't think you were on that one, about the average, how much games an average gamer plays per year.
Oh, yeah. It's only like 14% by more than one game or something like that.
One game a month or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you keep doing that, and the percentage is going to get lower to where you end up having the majority of players buy one game a year or no games a year. You lose all your gamer base and mobile takes over, right?
Yep.
And I think that's a self-correction in the market. The Sony's well will dry up. Their cash cow of people who want to play games will dry up. So I think that they're shooting themselves in the foot here. But with increasing these profit margins instead of increasing your product value, your products, number of products you release, and the basically the quality of those products. But we could probably talk about this for another hour if we wanted to go on. But I think that this just shows that it's not only Microsoft doing it, but Microsoft is pushing everybody in their product groups to do it, including Xbox, who is not at a 30% margin. To ask a company to shoot for a 30% margin that is in the 15s or 14s, doubling their net profit margin, is greedy, asinine, and a bunch of fuckwads. It's a bunch of fuckwads, right? In my opinion. It's like, is it Sarah Bond? Is that, or what's her name? What's
That's
the
current president? Name?
Is she the current president now still?
Sarah Bond's the Xbox president.
I'm talking about Microsoft's.
I don't know.
Microsoft is an Indian fella. Nadir.
Nadir, yeah.
I think he's still the president, right?
I think so too. He is, I don't know, the CEO or whatever. Nadir.
Bradford Smith.
Satya, I think it's Nadella is the actual CEO, right?
CEO?
Yeah.
Brad Smith's El Presidente.
Yeah, it's Satya Nadella.
Yeah, Satya Nadella.
I can never pronounce his first name, but those people are pushing for a double. They're pushing Xbox to double their net profit margin, and I'm like, that's greedy as fuck. And you can eat the whole bag of dicks and choke on them for that. That's just, us gamers are reaching the saturation point to where we're saying, fuck it. I mean, I've moved off the Microsoft. I myself have moved off the Microsoft ecosystem. I'm with Nick, where I don't want to sell my I don't want to sell my Xbox because it's going to be a loss or whatever. And I just keep it around for games I already own. So I won't do that, but I'm not buying their next console. It's fuck you. I'm not buying your next console. I'll play everything on PC that I want to play. And then if there's something that comes out for free on Game Pass of yours that I want to play, I'm buying the $5 game card for Game Pass, and you can eat that and go fuck right off. I'm not giving you profit that you need. I'm going to try to milk you out of your profit as much as I can. I'm going to be a drain on your system.
And just a heads up before we go, the Satya Nadella, his pay hit a record high. Guess how much his pay hit?
Oh, he's in the millions, like 96 probably.
90, fuck, Pat, that's a damn good guess. Pardon my language. $96.5 million. He got a 22% pay raise, mirroring the $4 trillion tech giant skyrocketing shares. So from this article,
yeah.
That's why his next one's going to be 30%, increasing that stuff to 120 million.
Yep.
I mean,
and that's the kind of horse shit that's going to kill this country. Horse shit's going to kill these companies, because people are going to have to get tired of it because people can't afford it.
Enough is never enough, right?
I saw an article the other day.
There's never
Hamburger Helper is making a huge comeback. Their shares are going up because nobody can afford,
and I help
real food. And that's pretty much what it is. So I mean
it's going to be ramen and hamburger helper that are going to be.
And hamburger helper is going to be like a Thanksgiving meal. We're not going to splurge on that all the time.
They're going to come out with the hamburger helper Thanksgiving in a box. It's got everything in it.
Well, I mean,
just a dried up yam pops out.
I just Googled it just for S&Gs, and they had a 14.5% increase this year alone in profit because of, and that's not like net profit margins. That's just complete, like that's complete growth. Like that's profit in general, because of the economy and, the cost of food in this country has gone up, and it's gone up artificially, right? Because they all blamed a lot of things that happened in the market. But yet those costs have settled, but yet the price of food never went down. So,
no, and they won't go down.
They'll just keep that increased profit.
That's the country we're in. It's all right. We're going to use this as an excuse. So we're here now. All right. Well, this went away. Well, why would we go back?
Right.
People are paying for it. Why go back?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. This whole world is disgusting. And
what's horrible about that, though, especially when it comes to necessities, is people don't have a choice, right?
No, they don't have a choice on that.
And that's
why hamburger helper's making a resurgence, because you have no choice. You have to eat.
Yeah.
So, the hell I do. I'll go out in the street and frickin' die. That'll show.
I remember I used to eat condiments. It was
ketchup and crackers.
Ketchup and crackers, not condoms.
Yep, ketchup and crackers night.
Yeah,
I remember
ketchup and crackers night, or mustard and
dry saltines and catsup. CATSUP.
I can remember when I was younger, and McDonald's cheeseburgers and stuff used to be like 25 cents, or
like
I get.
They had that. What was it? Well, was it on Tuesdays or whatever? They had like the 50-cent cheeseburgers or whatever the hell it was.
Yep.
And you used to go be like,
now you can't get a small fry for under $1.90.
Yeah, you can't get $1. The dollar menu is not $1 anymore.
Oh,
right?
no.
But yeah, and
one person at McDonald's now is like almost $20.
Yeah, it's
for
expensive.
one person.
Yeah, a meal.
Yeah, well, they actually dropped their prices back a little bit on several things. The Big Mac meal went back like $2-3 because it's like $8 now.
Right. Well, I had read that and this was a little while back, but McDonald's was even seeing lesser people going to it.
They just can't afford it. I mean, when you think about it, it's expensive. I remember when you used to be able to take $20 and get like 2 large pizzas with deluxes and everything, and now that's $50. We had sticker shock.
Pizza. Even if you go to like Domino's, which is the cheaper of the, or like Little Caesars still got $5 pizza, but
but it's not really pizza.
All right, but if you go to Domino's, which is the cheaper one, it's still it's still going to be like $50-$60. For pizzas and whatever.
I got their specials today because my 2 kids had their boyfriend and girlfriend over, so I got them pizzas. I got the Domino's special, the medium 2 topping $6.99. So I got 3 of those, and it was $29. And it's fucking horrible pizza. Their quality, and that's another thing going down is the quality of the food has gone down so much because they're buying cheaper and cheaper ingredients. So
I'll tell you what we've stopped doing is we've stopped eating Domino's and Pizza Hut and all that stuff, and we get Costco pizzas now. They're $9 for a big ass pizza.
Yes, Vivian got a couple of those the other day, and man, those are good.
They're good pizzas, and
they're
dirt cheap. They're
I was like, get some more of these.
We do that now when we do like pizza nights every now and then. One large Costco pizza beats all of us, and we just spent $10 instead of spending $40 at Domino's or Pizza Hut. And I'm like, screw those guys. So the cost of everything has gone up. But so we probably better wrap this up soon. Anybody got last words? Shane, what were you about to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, take and bake's the way to go anymore with a pizza. It really is.
It's still $20 for a take and bake.
Well, the one here in town, you can get a large.
Papa Murphy's?
Papa Murphy's. You can get a large here for $16.99. And that's the deluxe combo.
I can get a $10 pizza fully cooked and ready to go for me. So
yeah, but I like Papa Murphy's a little better. It's okay to spend a few extra dollars on something that's more of a quality, but they're taking the quality away. That's the biggest problem.
They're getting smaller. Shrinkflation is real. So, if you're still following us after 50 minutes of us rambling on about this stuff and you're not subscribed, why not? Help us out, man. Help us out. You listen to us ramble about everything from video games to macroeconomics,
and pizza.
McDonald's and pizza. We've hit the gambit here tonight. It tastes different, really is talking about food. So let us know what you think down in the comments. But, like I said, make sure you're subscribed. You reach the end of this. Help us out, reach that goal of getting as many subscribers as we can so we can keep reporting the news. Bullshitting about video games is what we do. We don't take ourselves too seriously, so you shouldn't either. That's why we're starting to read the articles in front of you so you can see what we're talking about. Form your own opinion. And that's what we'd like to hear about. What is your opinion? What do you think is going to happen in the gaming market? What do you think about Microsoft telling Xbox they need to increase net profit margin to 30%? Let us know what you think down in the comments. And we hope you enjoyed this episode and hope to catch you in the next one.
See ya.